What's up, everybody? Ryco here. Tearlaments Still Best Deck. That's right, Tearlament still strongest. We're bringing it to locals. We're about to take some dubs. We're gonna see how this deck does. Hopefully we don't run into any shifters, but you know, Tearlament Best Deck. Let's hop right into the matches. Alright, so beginning with round 1, we get paired against Fire King Snake-Eye, and of course, we lost the dice roll. We draw 5 cards, and looking at my hand, it appears that we have bricked horribly. Drawing Happy, Malicious, Rainbow Bridge with the Turtle, and Rhino Heart, things aren't looking too good. Our opponent starts by activating Wanted in the draw phase, and begins the main phase by normal summoning Snake-Eye Ash, which is essentially all the fire decks could really ask for. He proceeds to combo, but thankfully, our opponent misplays. He climbs up into Promethean, then attempts to summon Black Witch, which, yes, is an illegal move as Promethean locks you into fire monsters. We realize this shortly after the summon, and rewind back. He then continues to combo, summoning Whale, using Flame Birch to reborn 2, then goes into his Fire King engine. He searches Island, which then gives him access to Garunix, to which he then proceeds to link off Garunix and Oak into a Little Knight. He sets 1 back row and passes to me. I draw for turn, ripping a tier cache off the top, which doesn't really help my situation as my hand still has 4 bricks in it. Being my only good option, I start off my turn by normal summoning Rhino Heart and declaring the effect. My opponent chains their Little Knight, banishing itself and Rhino Heart, and given that my hand isn't the best, I decide to dump a tier cache to mill 2 and to put a tier card in grave to use to summon the other tier cache I have in my hand. Seeing that I bricked and used my normal summon already, my opponent decides to Ash the mill 2. I then proceed to reveal the other tier cache in my hand, summoning her to the field and declaring the effect to mill 3. This resolves, and our mills are absolutely cracked. We hit Trivikarma, Shiren, and a Shuffler, all of which are absolutely insane in this game state and essentially fix my hand. We use the effect of Shiren, chaining Trivikarma to add a Planet Perlerino and fuse into Destiny Hero Dangerous. Dangerous pitches Rainbow Bridge, dumping a Mally, and we use that effect to summon another Mally. Our opponent sees 2 level 6s on board and decides to use the Promethean effect. Thankfully, because we milled a Shuffler, we are able to chain, targeting his Promethean and 2 Fire King monsters, to which he chains Skyburn on top of that, popping our Dangerous to keep us off Beatrice, or Beat Rice as I like to call her. We will continue by activating our planet, searching Shiren, and using Shiren's effect to summon itself, dump the turtle, and mill 3. Our mills may not seem as good this time, but the fact that we hit another Shuffler is absolutely insane. With the Shuffler, we are able to put back the turtle, thus making the Rainbow Bridge in grave live. We use the effect, grabbing the turtle and the Horus Field spell, which now gives us access to the Horus engine. We search Seti, which will grab us King Sark, and our opponent decides enough is enough and scoops it up. Going into game 2, our opponent starts off and opens Snake-Eye's Ash again. Although we don't have any hand traps to interrupt his combo, our hand is absolutely stacked, as we drew Super Poly, Shadal Fusion, and access to combo with extension. Our opponent proceeds to set up his board, and seems to have gotten mixed up in the combo line again, as they end on a rather suboptimal field. However, they end with a deck lockdown face up on the field, which can absolutely hurt. But luckily, we drew the out, being Shadal Fusion. I draw another tier cache for turn, and proceed to the main phase, where I use Foolish Goods to dump a Rainbow Bridge, and follow that by using Shadal Fusion. Ash check? No Ash? Let's go! Shadal Fusion resolves, summoning Apkallone and dumping Ariel and Hollow. Apkallone negates the deck lockdown, Ariel banishes 3 from the grave, and Hollow mills 2. Things are looking good. We hit a Scream off the mill 2, so we add a Sulliek and use the Rainbow Bridge to add the Turtle and the Horus Field spell. The Horus Field spell will then get us Seti, which then searches us King Sark. And, like a true champ, we draw a Planet Perlerino off the Seti draw. We'll use the Sark to attempt to dump our Happy from the deck, but our opponent chains Cosmic Cyclone. Unfortunate. But it's not too bad, as this will now trigger our Seti to non-targeting send a card on the field to the grave. I decide to send the Fire King Island, popping his board, which will then trigger the Flame Burge to float back 2. He triggers his effects, and ends on 4 bodies on field, thus building a wall. I'm not too worried, however, as Super Poly will clear the way to victory. For now, I continue by using Tear Cash's effect to see what I mill, and again, my mill is absolutely insane, as I hit another Shuffler, a Havness, and a Maui. I fuse into Garura with the Havness and Nessie Engrave, summon a Maui from deck, make Beatrice, and use the effect of Beatrice detaching Garura to dump a Shiren. This way, I get a draw, I get the fuse, and Garura goes back to the extra deck to summon again with Super Poly from the monsters on his field. It's at this point where my opponent realizes he probably lost and decides to scoop it up. Definitely a good start to this tournament as we begin 2-0 against Fire. Moving into my next match, I get paired against Rescue Ace. Now, let me preface something before the match starts. The person playing Rescue Ace is a good friend who hasn't played Yu-Gi-Oh! In a while, and this was his first tournament back in a while. Because of this, there was a slight mishap regarding deck building as he thought Preventer was limited rather than Airlifter. He realizes this as he is comboing, and I let him know, and so he quickly changes out 2 extra copies of Airlifter for 2 more copies of Preventer. Easy fix. And given that he didn't draw Airlifter, and we're good friends, and the fact that this is locals, we simply continue with the game. No harm, no foul. Now that that small mishap has been taken care of, he continues to set up his board, setting 4 and ending on Whale, with Promethean in the grave, a Hydrant on board, alongside a Preventer. We start off for turn by summoning Fenrir and using Shadal Fusion. Unfortunately, he did have the Ash Blossom in hand, but this then triggers the Fenrir we have, to which, surprisingly, he uses Crossout to call Fenrir. True Giga Chat energy on that one. In shambles, I decide to continue with my plays by using Nessie in hand. Luckily, he hits Hollow, we get the summon and draw off Nessie, and we proceed to mill 3. Our mills were okay, but nothing too great. I then link off the negated Fenrir and Nessie into a Little Knight, then proceed to normal summon Merly and use her effect. He will attempt to negate Merly, but I chain Little Knight, thus dodging the negate, and he proceeds to pop my Little Knight as well, making his Preventer unaffected. Merly resolves, milling 3, and although we hit a Shuffler, the mills aren't too good. There's not much else we can do this turn, so we set a Solic, get the Merly back in the end phase, and proceed to pass turn. In the draw phase, I decide now is the best time to use Solic, as I want to send Merly to the grave right away and fuse. This resolves, permanently negating his Preventer, and sending the Merly to the grave. Merly fuses, summoning one of the most ignorant boss monsters of all time, Winda. Our opponent continues with his plays, searching Airlifter, which grabs the field spell so he can begin to recycle his resources. Luckily, his draw wasn't relevant, as he continues to the battle phase to swing over Winda. This will then trigger Winda's effect when it hits the grave, grabs us back Shadal Fusion for follow-up. Continuing with main 2, my opponent links into Promethean, brings back the Fire Attacker, and links into Phoenix to destroy my Solic. Although my opponent will get the draw 2 and discard 1 from Fire Attacker, I feel it's worth it to resolve Solic Search anyway. He draws 2, discards 1, and proceeds to normal Impulse with his additional normal from the field spell. He then links into a 3-mat Appaloosa and ends his turn. I draw, and with the heart of the cards, I rip a King Sark off the top. Mwah! Beautiful. I begin the main phase by using Shadal Fusion, and he drops a second Ash Blossom. Okay, that's okay. I activate King Sark and use the effect by sending Happy from hand to dump him Seti. I summon both Horus monsters, normal Rhino, and immediately overlay into Typhon. I use Typhon's effect to lower Appaloosa's attack and begin to swing for big damage. I proceed to pass turn. He draws for turn and summons Fenrir. He then uses the field spell to draw another, and with no follow-up or way to crack my board, he decides to scoop. Good game 1. Time for game 2. My opponent opens Emergency and begins to build his board. He sets 4, and surprisingly enough, activates Instant Fusion with little time left in the round. Surely that won't come back and bite him in the butt. He continues to link climb, ending on a Whale, Hydrant, Promethean Engrave, and with the set 4 cards. He passed his turn to me, and although I drew well and was probably winning the game, time was called in my main phase, and I ended up winning due to the cost of his instant fusion. GG's. And that's part 1 of this video. So as you can see so far, Tearlaments is definitely strong. If you all want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Also, we're almost near 300 subscribers, and by the time this video comes out, we may be at 300 already. So I just want to take this moment to thank you all so much for your continuous support. I really couldn't be doing this without you all, and for that, thank you. If you want to see part 2 of this video, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. But until next time, peace.